All right, guys, we are back again with another COVID Cabal. It's going to be a short COVID Cabal today, guys. Just a 30-minute long episode because, as you know, we have a pretty busy day ahead. We got Dynamic Man podcast coming at 12:30 today. I got a client call in between these shows, so we are just gonna go right with it. Especially since today, it's not as if we're covering tons of topics. This is mostly going to be very acute, what's going to happen, what did happen topic around these recent attacks on Russia, the Russia-Ukraine war, and the implications of other elections in Europe and kind of where things are at. So without further ado, let's get into it. We do not have a wine today. I got way too much work and frankly not really in the mood for alcohol. But I do have some coffee because I'm going to be up late tonight. And I've got some radishes I'm going to eat as well. So we're talking about Slavic issues. It's only appropriate that we have radishes. A very, very Slavic vegetable. So I said the other day about this NATO attack, the second I heard it, that the only reason for the attack was to sabotage the peace talks. Let's remove the illusions that Ukraine actually wants peace. The escalations are designed for one reason: to eventually force a Russian response that would draw NATO into the war. So there's a lot of things that happen. I mean, first off, you see here below, the Ukrainians blew up a bridge and crashed a passenger train. They killed like 40. Okay, it says they injured 40 people, several dead. And then they attacked Russia's nuclear air fleet, which is significant for a number of reasons. The first is that, well, the way that they did it, which was, and this is something I'm going to jump over to what a good mutual of mine, Clint Elric, said on X, that basically this was a Russian technology, at least that they would use semi-trucks to have missiles come out of it. In this case, it was drones. So this is a new kind of warfare. I mean, we already know that drone warfare is really being shown the full horrors of it in the Russia-Ukraine war. But they had drones come out of these trucks, attack a Russian airbase, and the Ukrainians are exaggerating the number of planes destroyed, but a number of planes, it's not, for instance, 40 planes. From what I understand, I think 3 were completely destroyed and a few were damaged. But Russia doesn't have a lot of these planes. They're strategic bombers, and it's more than that. It's the principle of it. So Russia is leaving the START treaty, but that or they're not renewing it, but that doesn't happen until 2020. Left the START treaty. They are still in the START treaty. And by the way, START treaty is a nuclear treaty, right? It regulates various things like amounts of missiles, but one of the criteria in the START treaty is that you have to have your bombers visible. So it's kind of like everybody has, all the major nuclear powers have satellites, so they can see that these planes are what they're doing. Basically, it's a kind of transparency. So for Ukraine to attack this is stuff that never happened even over the entire Cold War. It is a serious, serious red line. And it happened just prior to negotiations. So it's obvious here that Ukraine, they don't want these negotiations to succeed. And look, if you guys have been watching the show, if you guys have been paying attention to things going on in the world, you've known for a while that this is the case. Ukraine is not being led by people who care about Ukraine. If Ukraine cared about Ukraine, Ukraine would have accepted the agreements back in the spring of 2022. At that point in the war, Ukraine would have made the agreements, and that would have been it. As this war has gone on, the demands that Russia is going to put on Ukraine and the costs on Ukraine are getting higher and higher. So Russia has now opened up the front in Sumy. Sumy, by the way, guys, It's north of Krakow. I don't have the map in front of me today. Maybe I can actually, I'm gonna add it. Give me 1 second here. I think that having these things always helps. It always helps to have a map. But the point I'm trying to make here, the reason I'm bringing this stuff up, see here. Give me 1 second. The reason I'm bringing this stuff up, man, I don't know if it's showing up here. Might not be around anymore. I may have accidentally deleted it. Anyway, apologize for that delay. I wanted to show you guys a map of Ukraine because I find it easier. But Sumy is basically the part of Ukraine that's across the border from where the Ukrainians invaded before, Kursk area, right? So this was like an opportunity. It's kind of like a retaliation against Ukraine for what happened in Kursk when Ukraine went into Russian territory. But it's also a natural strategic development in this war, because why would Russia not open up or broaden the front? The Donbass is so heavily militarized, and Ukraine is suffering more and more equipment and manpower issues, whereas Russia's having the opposite situation. Its manpowers continue to increase. Those of you guys who've been following this stuff know that actually Ukraine had more manpower on the front up until the summer of 2023, when it hit parity. For the first time, it hit parity. And since then, Russia has gradually been increasing the number of people available, mostly in reserves. Russia now has a number of soldiers that they can open up and broaden this front in Sumy, and maybe they'll broaden up in the Chernigov, the entire area. And my guess is that if they expanded in that area, they might start to create space, enough thinning of the Ukrainian reserves, that then they could even attempt a amphibious assault if Russia also has those reserves. But the point of all this stuff is that Ukraine is in a very bad position. It has no strategic initiative across anywhere in the entire front. And they attack Russia's nuclear arsenal. So the entire purpose of this is to get Russia to escalate in a way that would justify NATO getting involved. There's a lot of information out there suggesting that Trump didn't even know about this Ukrainian attack, which of course makes perfect sense, because Trump wants peace because it's a bad position for America to be in, you know, him inheriting this war. But the EU, the globalists, want this war very badly. And they are very happy to sacrifice every Ukrainian in the country in order to achieve some sort of escalation in this, something that traps America, that makes America have to be involved. And I don't know exactly what that's going to be, because look, Russia hasn't retaliated in the, you know, they've had a bunch of cruise missile strikes and everything in the prior days, but Russia has not done the big retaliation yet. But Putin's saying that there is no more red line. The red line's been crossed. Putin is a very, very restrained person. He looks very upset about what this might mean. But look, I'll just tell you bluntly, I think this green lights Russia using nuclear weapons on Ukraine. I think it green lights it. I'm not saying like using it all across the entire board, but people need to understand how serious it is to attack someone's nuclear arsenal, attack their nuclear bombers. This is, it can't go without a response. And so I'm thinking to myself, what's a response that doesn't directly hit Europe, but sends a point that a line's been crossed and that we're not going to mess around anymore? That's where we're at with Russia. Ukraine is not going to exist anymore. I believe that this action made the existence of Ukraine no longer viable for Russia. And, you know, take a look at this. This is This was Ukraine's peace terms, which, by the way, apparently they didn't present these terms in Russian. They refused to present them in Russian. This is just like total nonsense. 30-day full ceasefire, all Ukrainian POWs for all Russian POWs, which of course Russia has a lot more POWs than Ukraine, right? All the exchanges so far have been even numbers for even numbers. No limits on Ukrainian military forces, no recognition of Russian territorial gains. Russia has to pay Ukraine back money. Talks to start from the current front line. I mean, this is, it's like an insane negotiating position. Is an insane negotiating position. So it's no wonder that these negotiations lasted like 2.5 hours before they completely collapsed. Because this is never offer. Tom Longo said it perfectly. Typical European negotiating: never offer anything new, always ask for maximal results, ignore reality, humiliate your opponent. They'll be the terms up to until the moment when Zelensky hangs from a lamppost. And it's totally correct. It's totally correct. And one thing that Tom said, he called it. I listened to it on his, you have to be a member of his subscription to see this. But he was saying this on his show. He was predicting it, that this operation didn't really come from Ukraine. It had all the hallmarks of a British operation. And now we're seeing this. Our source said that yesterday's special operation, like the blowing up of the Crimean Bridge, was prepared by British intelligence using its agents in the regions of Russia. The Ukrainians were not involved in the active phase, but only delivered parts to various warehouses. Satellite repeaters were precisely tuned to the NATO frequency, which made it possible to organize the raid. Thanks to the work for the Center for Informed PSYOPs, the media effect was achieved. In number of 40 aircraft was launched. In reality, the number is 3 times less, but in cognitive wars, the main thing is to cause shock. The bottom there is basically saying how many aircraft were actually impacted. So, tells us it was a British operation designed to create a massive Russian escalation. Where's it going to go? My friends, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I feel in my bones this is going to be different. And just today, we had another attack on the Crimean Bridge, the Kerch Bridge. Now, it didn't really sustain any major damage, but the point is there's going to have to be a real message sent. There's going to have to be a real message sent. Putin has been very restrained, but this is such a different level. This is even different than attacking civilian infrastructure. There's going to have to be some response. And I don't know what he's going to do, whether he's going to use a nuclear weapon or not, whether he's just going to display nuclear power. Because remember also, the public hasn't seen a nuclear weapon. The public hasn't seen a nuclear weapon in 50 years. Maybe 60 years was the last time we had open air nuclear tests. I think France was doing it into the 60s in the South Pacific. So nukes have become very abstracted. Russia could prove their point even without dropping it on people if they just dropped a nuke to show people this is what you're tempting right now, and the public could actually see it. I don't know what he's going to do. But I would be surprised if he does nothing, and he's signaling that they're going to do something. And I think everyone can feel it's a little ominous. I don't believe that Trump has commented on this stuff, which is interesting. So we may be entering that next big stage of things because that we've been waiting for. The one thing I will say is this, though, to take it away from the generic geopolitical observers, Putin and Trump understand the bigger picture game plan in a way that a lot of the casual observers do not. So what I mean by that is they both understand they're working against the same cabal. Russia and Trump both know that what the EU and the globalists are attempting to do is to trap the United States in a war against Russia. I know whatever advice Trump's getting, even if he's not getting the full picture of what's going on in Ukraine, he's had long talks with Putin. Okay. I would be absolutely shocked and surprised if there is not some awareness of this, if not some degree of a plan between the two of them, an understanding, let's say, at least between the two of them. That doesn't mean that they're working fully in lockstep on everything, but it means that they understand what things don't work in their interest. So you're not going to see Trump get into a situation where he is actively going to war against Russia. That's not going to happen. And you're not going to see a situation where Russia is going to do something to put Trump in a position where he has to do that. So the question is, what is the middle ground in between? In some sense, Russia has to retaliate far, but not far enough to bait the Europeans from getting in a position that Trump can leave them behind. That would be the ultimate kind of tactic there, would be to somehow shatter NATO, to give Trump the reason to get out of NATO. And yeah, that would be the win-win for both Trump and Putin, to give Trump an out to get out of NATO. But that's a very delicate dance, because, you know, I think a lot of us would prefer Trump just left, just bailed on the whole thing. But I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it's that easy with all the different political implications of that, the integration of things. It may not be the ultimate desired outcome. They may just want to get these governments, these European, these other Western governments in NATO, out of NATO. That may be the real, or out of power. That may be the real goal. But this is, to me, the line that they have to walk. So we'll see what happens. I want to say this also. What is going to happen with the elections in Poland and the significance of that? Now, Polish elections have traditionally been kind of bullshit, because you've had the two main parties, PO, which is led by Donald Tusk, who was president of the European Commission at one point not so long ago. And they are Davos, EU oriented. They're classified as center right, but I mean, they're just globalist. Poland's a conservative country, so compared to other parts of Europe, it's considered a party on the right. But, you know, it's not in Polish politics, it's the left, right? In Polish politics, it's center left. And in Polish politics, PiS, Law and Justice, which is Kaczynski's party, is center right. And traditionally, PO has been Davos, EU, and PiS has been neocon, Anglo-oriented, Anglo-American oriented. But on the neocon kind of flavor of things versus pure nationalist like Hungary. So beyond that, you have a smattering of small left-wing parties, truly left-wing parties in Poland. And then you have Konfederacja, which is actually quite a large group in Polish politics now, and I would consider them to be truly on the right, as in an organic movement. And Konfederacja did very well in the first round of the elections. They got the two candidates who had been in Konfederacja, Menson and Brown, both got combined like 26% of the vote. Whereas Nawrocki, who is the PiS candidate, got only 29%. So almost splitting, certainly 40% of the conservative vote. Very, very popular with Poles under 40, right? Younger Poles. Law and Justice is an older party. But Nawrocki is a bit of a different, again, Nawrocki is the person, he just became president. He just won the election. And he won the election because Konfederacja voters came to him because he pledged to follow a Konfederacja agenda. The reason this was significant is that Nawrocki is technically not PiS. He was endorsed by PiS. He's a former boxer, younger guy himself. I think he's in his 40s. He was endorsed by PiS, but he's not technically part of PiS's party. And this is important because he's softened on a lot of the worst issues that PiS had, because PiS would raise taxes. PiS was very bad for business. They were populist, but very much in almost like a leftist populism, where it was all like super heavy payments for like pensioners and organized labor. Very, very bad for business. Confederatia, much more pro-business. Confederatia, much more against Ukraine and not as anti-Russian. Peace was very anti-Russian and very pro-Ukraine. Navratsky is softened on those positions, I think, in part because he has to cater to the voters from Confederatia who helped to put him in power. So here's the question, right? The question is, what is going to happen now that he's president? How much does it matter? The government is controlled by PO. It's controlled by Donald Tusk right now. And in Polish politics, parliament, the prime minister is the one who has the power of leading the government, in practice, initiating legislation. But the president is not completely insignificant. He's technically the head of the army, and he has veto power over legislation. So right now, you have also the outgoing president, Andrzej Duda, is peace, and he has blocked a lot of the PO agenda from happening. So you will continue to see that happen with Navratsky, and perhaps in some ways in a more aggressive term than you did before. Some people could be more bearish about it in the sense that peace is, Anglo, so it's the neocon back group, and PO is Davos, so you don't really have a real choice between these two candidates. But I think that there's reason to believe that Navratsky is going to be different, and Trump endorsed Navratsky. I think that peace is shedding some of that neocon flavor because it just hasn't been working out very well for Poland. Poland has very much found itself way too involved in the front with this Ukraine war in a way that's very much against MAGA. And I don't think it was received well by the base, and peace is kind of undergoing a political reorganization. So not to be naive about the situation, but this is the situation on the ground right now. I definitely think it's a positive development. The president's going to have power for, I believe, 4 more years, and it will check whether it's via migration or whether it's involvement in Ukraine. It has the capacity. He has the capacity to check a lot of the moves from Donald Tusk's Davos government. But if you can see here, you can see the map of Poland, and you can see this very interesting divide across the entire country. Blue is peace, Navratsky, and red is PO. The guy's name is Chaskovsky. So it's pretty interesting, and you can see very much that in the northern and western areas, which were all the former German territory. Look at how much oriented towards Europe it is, towards Germany it is, right? And then in the rest of Poland, you can see it's actually overwhelmingly different. You can see also I'm in the eastern part of Poland right now, so you can see that I'm in a very conservative part of Poland, already a conservative country. But it was a close election. It wasn't crazy close in the end. I think these days 2 points is not considered to be as crazy close as maybe it would have been in a different time. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Very interesting to see what happens. So that's the main stuff here for the COVID cabal today. Last thing I'm going to throw out there, we can talk about this in the future, is what's this AI regulation thing going on here? A lot of people getting upset about it, that Trump's big, beautiful bill will ban all 50 states from regulating AI for 10 years, control to be centralized at the federal level, integrating AI systems in the key federal agencies. I know a lot of people are very upset about this, and I'm not going to pretend I have a strong opinion or a developed opinion because I just saw this today. I honestly do not know what to think of it, but I'll just tell you my initial gut reaction to this is that it's okay. And here's the reason why it's okay. This is inevitable. I know that people aren't happy about it, but it's inevitable. The AI arms race, AI is coming. And the unfortunate reality is that there is no plausible system where you cannot do something that what Trump is doing right now. There's no way that you can do that because you're not just competing against nefarious actors, you're competing against other countries. So Trump wants to have it all centralized because he wants to control it. He wants his people to control it. Now you can make arguments. Are Musk, is Palantir, are these the people that you want to have controlling AI? Look, I've seen some bad things about Palantir. I've seen some good things about Palantir. You know, obviously, I think most of us believe on balance, Musk is a good actor. I would personally rather have Trump and Trump's people control things rather than have some, you know, demonic Davosian group control it, to have California and New York control things. I'm at heart somebody who favors decentralization, but when you have an infiltrated country and when you have this kind of technological arms race, I don't even know if it's possible anymore, guys. I just gotta be honest. Are we heading into like some sort of techno dictatorship and we just gotta hope it's our dictator? I don't know. Sometimes it seems like it's going that direction. And you just gotta hope that it's your guy who's got the control of the power, because if it's not your guy who has control of the power, it's a bad guy who's got control of the power. And we can't get that same kind of balance that we used to be able to get. So we're gonna see what happens. But if you guys have some thoughts about that, you can definitely look it up, do some, you know, do some research on it yourself, give me your opinion. We can talk about it the next show. But yeah, guys, that's it for today. Short one, short COVID cabal. We will pick it up next week. Hopefully the world's still here. Hopefully we're still around. I think we will be. I think it'll be all right. But I really do feel for the people on the ground in Ukraine and in Russia who have to deal with this horror just because of the designs of these evil people. And we'll see what happens with it, guys. All right. Take care.